Hello, I'm Dr. Winnie King here in the lobby of the Children's Hospital in Montefiore, New York City. So that's why you'll see a lot of activity in the background. As you know, I'm an emergency room doctor, and two of the most devastating and most common accidents I've seen involved kids drowning, not just in pools, and kids choking, not just on food. And the worst part is that so many of these accidents could have been prevented. The tragedy of the story we're about to show you is that it's too late for prevention. I spent the day with Lisa Johnson, who shared her heartbreaking story with me because she hopes other parents won't make the same mistakes.
Happy birthday to Brandon and Rayanne.
It was their first birthday. Rayanne and Brandon Johnson went to the beach. So did their sister Victoria. Their parents have already learned they love the water. A year later, 10 days before their second birthday, they were home taking a nap in the corner bedroom. Their mom asked Victoria to check on them.
And she told me that they weren't there, and I thought she was kidding. And she went back into the room and started screaming that the window was open. So I got up, and the window was open. My heart just dropped. I knew they were in the pool. I just knew. I ran to the sliding glass door to see, and I could see my daughter floating. I ran out as fast as I could, screamed as loud as I could for help. They were both unconscious. Brandon's coloring was worse than Rayanne's. You could tell he looked worse. I remember being shocked, just feeling sick, very sick.
They were at the hospital within minutes. The biggest concern, Brandon.
I told them that I wanted to go back and see them, and they said no, that we couldn't, and I insisted. And then that's when they told me that he was gone. Sorry.
I mean, I can't, how do you hear those words? What happens when you hear that?
It's hard to explain. It seems just like a dream. That's not true.
Rayanne survived, barely.
She's 3.5. She no longer walks, talks, or eats by mouth. She doesn't have head control. She's basically like a baby that's 0 to 3 months old. We were told that she was deaf and blind. They didn't really have anything else to say other than we could put her in a home if we wanted to.
Would you ever do that?
Never. She chose to live, and I choose to still be her mom.
Rayanne's care takes so much time now that there's little left for Victoria. Lisa does get some help from her parents, though. And this goes into her feeding tube.
Yes.
It's in her tummy, right?
She actually gets fed 3 times a day.
This is not easy to talk about, and I'm so grateful that you're willing to talk with us about it today. But why put yourself through something like this again?
Because I want the word to get out. I want parents to fence their pools and to know that this can happen, that nobody is immune to this.
Lisa's father supports her any way he can. The two of them have begun to lobby for laws that would require fencing around all backyard pools.
Put the extra couple $1,000s out, fence your pools, latch your doors, watch your kids. Do what you have to do to keep your kids safe.
That's such a heartbreaking story, but I asked Lisa to tell it because you need to realize that for every child who dies from drowning, and there's more than 1,000 of them every year, 4 more are hospitalized for near drowning, and many of them suffer terrible complications like little Rayanne. All those statistics are more than just numbers to Kim and Stu Leonard of Westport, Connecticut. They're turning their personal sadness into something to help your kids.
We were vacationing in St. Martin with our family, and I was putting balloons up around the pool, and our 21-month-old son was helping me. And I was sticking the balloon up, and I looked down, and he wasn't there. And Kim was in the kitchen baking a birthday cake for our 3-year-old daughter at the time. And I figured, he went in to lick the icing bowl or went in there. So I got off the ladder and I walked in and I said, Kim, where's Stewie? She said, he's not with me.
We had never really made it clear who was watching him.
I remember looking in the pool, and there was a yellow T-shirt he was, the yellow T-shirt he was wearing, and I remember my heart just stopped.
Stu and Kim Leonard's 21-month-old son, Stewie, drowned just a few feet away from several adults standing around a pool.
Right before we went to go on this vacation, I had taken both the children in to see the pediatrician, and he had said to me, Kim, be super careful with them around the water. And I remember thinking, well, of course I will be. I mean, I'm a responsible parent. No, you read about things like that happening to other people. And that's what I want to stress, is that you can't be naive and you can't think this could never happen to me, because it can. You get angry, you blame, but then I think you reach a point where, and especially because we had a daughter, was that at some point you realize you have to take that anger and let go, because you don't want to live your life just carrying around all this anger. And because he died on her birthday, it was really a goal of mine to make sure she could grow up and have a happy birthday. She deserved that.
Kim and I had a decision after our son drowned. Do you shut life off around the water now? Do we get rid of the pool? Do you not ever bring him to the beach? And we said, you know what, that's not fair to a child.
And so the Leonards started the Stu Leonard III Water Safety Foundation with one simple goal: to prevent drowning accidents. The foundation gives scholarships for swimming lessons, and the focus is on talking directly to kids. Their newest project is promoting water safety through children's books and songs.
Don't jump in till you learn to swim. Cover your chest with a safe life vest.
Blow, blow, blow real hard. Bubbles fill the pool.
I worry about her and the pool, because when she goes to my mom, they have a pool there, and I'm like, what if they're just not attending to her the way that they need to and she falls in there?
But today we're going to work on floating, breathing, rotation in the water.
You know what makes Kim and I proud? We feel like we're making a difference in that one small area of parenting called water safety.
Good job. Good.
Well, the Leonard story and their efforts have inspired other parents to act. One of them is Gary Cole, and he's the father of 3-year-old Emily. And Dr. Jeff Abner, he is the head of the emergency department at the Children's Hospital at Montefiore. And Jeff, I want to start with you. The Leonards started teaching children because parents really weren't listening. And, it's great to teach kids, but what is the first message for parents?
Watch your child. There's nothing that replaces adult supervision, and preferably touch supervision, so that you're within an arm length of the child, whether it's around a pool, the bathtub, toilet, or even a bucket of water.
Yeah, and Gary, you know that all too well now, don't you?
That's right.
Tell us your story.
Well, Emily, myself, and my wife were doing some yard work, and my wife was cutting the lawn on the lawn tractor, and I was standing on the pool deck, and Emily had walked past me and walked right into the pool, and neither one of us ever saw her do that. It was very silent. We never heard anything. My wife and I carried on our conversation, and something in the background, it was a horn of a car, made me turn my head, and there was Emily going to the bottom of the pool, and I jumped in and got her.
You didn't even, it wasn't from her that you heard the sound. It was just another sound that happened to just sort of change your attention, change your focus. But, Jeff, it doesn't take very long for a child to drown, does it?
No. I mean, we're talking about a couple of minutes. In the first minute when a child falls, they breath hold. By the second minute, they're already starting to swallow water, lose consciousness, and irreversible brain damage happens at about 4 or 5 minutes. And the difference between children and teenagers and adults is that teenager and adult may flail about or struggle, but children just lay down and essentially suffocate, and that's why it's called the silent killer.
Yeah. Can children be taught and trusted around water?
Well, It depends on the level of the child. Of course, nothing replaces supervision. You have to know your child, teach them to swim, know the limitations, but it's difficult. Children are forever exploring, and they may not have the cognitive ability to know what's right and what's not, what's a risk and what's not. Same thing even with older children, teenagers. Are they risk takers? Are they drinking? These are behaviors that people need to really emphasize to their children about taking risks.
Well, Len Kemp teaches injury prevention classes to parents and kids. And Len, I want to go over some water safety basics with you. Let's start out, first of all, with pool rules. Very important. It's really important that adults watch their own kids.
Again, I have to agree. There's no substitute for parental or supervision. Very often you'll have a group of parents in a group talking. They need to take, one of the parents has to be identified as the one watching the group. Also a buddy system. Very often the children will go off on their own. It's encouraged that they have a friend with them, just two children, so if somebody needs help, they can go get help.
And what's the safety tag system?
Safety tag system is if a group of parents is having a conversation, one of the parents will hold a tag to say, I'm responsible for watching this, and they don't get caught up in the conversation.
Having a phone by the pool is really important.
For a lot of reasons. Number one, if something happens, you have quick access. And number two, you don't leave the area, so if the dispatcher you're calling for help wants to give you instructions, you're right there to help.
And if you are out there with your child around the pool and you hear the phone ringing in the house, it's so tempting to say, oh, I'll be right back, and you run into the house.
That's very common, and then you wind up getting caught in a conversation, and things happen outside that you're not aware of.
And fencing the pool is important.
Fencing the pool is important to keep children or people out of your neighborhood from coming in, but also you have to have fencing around or some sort of barrier for your own children. You want to regulate, or you want to be in charge of when your kids go in the pool.
And having a power safety cover is something that I'm sure a lot of folks hadn't heard about. Tell us about that.
A power safety cover is a rigid cover that children cannot budge, move, fall through, tear, and it's it's considered very safe. And again, the parents would have to turn the cover on and off above the pool.
Now, this is not those solar covers for the pool.
This is a rigid, hard surface that nobody could budge, move, crawl under, sneak under.
Okay, and having a life jacket is important.
Life jackets are important for children who do not know how to swim, and there's also inflatable bathing suits. Now, do not fall into this false sense of security with one of these devices. They increase buoyancy, but they do not allow your child to swim independently. You still have to be there.
And an important thing to remember is to look in the pool first. Explain that.
Well, sometimes it's hard, especially in the deep end, to see if your child's even submerged in the pool. So a few tips or recommendations we might say is put reflectings on either your life vest or your child's bathing suit so you can see them in the water. If you have lights installed in your pool, turn them on. And also have some sort of a stick or something that you could feel around to see if there's an object in the deeper end.
And, you know, it's so important to look in the pool first when your child is missing because, as you just heard Dr. Abner say, we don't have that much time.
That's right. That should be the first place that you look when you can't locate your child if you have a pool.
And then learning CPR is important.
Absolutely.
There's some other safety hazards that we want to go over that don't involve the pool but are just as important. The bathroom.
Some of the things that people don't even think about are the bathtub. Parents, please do not rely on bathtub seats or leave the child in the bathtub by themselves. Buckets with water, toilets, and pet dishes with water in them.
Yeah, all of these things can get you in trouble, as well as ponds, lakes, rivers, oceans. All of these are potential hazards for kids.
That's correct. That's what we think of most of the time.
Yeah, well, you know, remember that drowning is totally silent, and you will not hear your child splashing around. It's so important to remember that. Now, Gary, how has this whole experience with Emily changed the way you interact with her and your younger son?
Well, now my wife and I, we use layers of protection. First and foremost, we always try to know where our children are in the backyard. We always keep the gate to the pool locked, even if we leave the pool area for a minute. We bring the children with us. We've bought a pool alarm, and we've even spoken with our neighbors about the security of their pools because the kids are over there as well.
Sure.
Children themselves are fearless. I mean, just her going into the pool by herself.
You would have never thought it.
No,
You know,
never.
To learn to protect your child from the second big danger, choking, click on Part 2 of Preventing Drowning and Choking.